Joan Gaines, who's here today to do our invocation. Thank you, Joan.
And thank you for inviting me. Please join with me in prayer. Almighty God, Adonai Yahweh, we thank you for the city of Amarillo and the gifts you bring every day, including rain, sunshine, and even the wind. We do not always follow Christ, and we give you thanks that in him there is forgiveness when we fail. Today we praise you for working through the city and county officials that as the threat of COVID continues, we all have access to vaccines and boosters. We humbly ask that the Holy Spirit bring wisdom to this council as they consider ordinances, as they consider contracts for many things, including replacing driveways at fire stations and purchasing everything from water meters to software. Guide all their decisions so they reflect compassion and what is truly best for Amarillo. We know everyone in Amarillo does not know you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but may they know you care for them through the work of the council and to all of us who do know you and your amazing love. We ask that as conflict escalates across our land, you help us to pray for those with whom we disagree and to treat them with courtesy. Gracious God, we pray for all those who seek to protect us in Amarillo, our police, firefighters, and those working in health care. Today, we entrust this meeting, this council, all who work for the city, and all the citizens to your love, grace, and joy through Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray and serve. Amen.
Amen. Joan, thank you so much. Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I've got a special announcement for us today before we do public address. Someone has recently had an anniversary with the city, and that is our city manager. He's been with us for 5 years and has done a whole lot of good for the city in the last 5 years. Jared, we really had some amazing landmark projects cross the finish line in the last 5 years while you've been at the helm, whether that's the Tech Vet School, whether it's the broadband effort that we've spent so much time visioning and working on. When you took the reins of the city, you quickly thereafter had an election where you had 5 brand new council members who had never served on a city council. So really you took us to raise as well. And you had a lot of vacancies in staff positions, especially director level positions, and you've filled those and navigated those well. Much of the success that our city is seeing right now, whether it's the success of the sod poodles and having that stadium built, that was done on your watch. Many of the economic development projects that we feel like in this unique season of growth for Amarillo are happening. They're happening because of the way that you and the team are operating our city with such stability and excellence. And so it is our honor to acknowledge 5 years of coming to work every day, 5 years of answering the phone no matter what time the mayor calls, 5 years of steering staff and helping staff to navigate staff shortages, COVID, budget crises. There's been a lot in the last 5 years. So I wish there was like a big fat bonus check in here with this certificate. But do know that from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate the service that you have given to our city, and I anticipate many more great years of success in the future. Thank you. Anybody else want to add into that? Contradicted, I guess, if you have the different opinion, but We appreciate you very much, Jared.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it's a service pin in case, or something like that.
So there,
5 years. It's acknowledging 5 years of service. That's what it is.
and no big fat bonus check, right?
Well, in all seriousness, being able to work here is the bonus. So,
Oh, well.
a great team, and I've got a couple of people that I have these for as well. So, I'll be looking for me to come see y'all.
Well said. Okay, I'll hand it over to Stephanie Coggins, who's going to act as our moderator today for public address.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you participating in today's City Council meeting. Your input and your opinions are important to us. We're glad you're here to share them. At each posted meeting, At each posted meeting, we invite our fellow community members to come and share your thoughts on items that are posted on our agenda. We will give you 3 minutes to address council. We ask that you try to stay to this time to be respectful to others. At the end of 2.5 minutes, you're going to hear a warning beep, and that's just giving you a little heads up to wrap up your comments. We ask you to limit your comments to items on the posted agenda. We do have some public hearings on the agenda today, so if you're here to speak on a public hearing, we would ask that you make your comments either now during public address or during the public hearing, but not both. This will help us keep an accurate record of minutes for the meeting. So at this time, we will ask Jonas Fuller to come forward. Mr. Fuller is our first commenter. On deck after Mr. Fuller is Michael Ford. As you come to the podium, when you come, if you'll just state your name, whether or not you live in the city of Amarillo, and then share your comments with council.
I have exhibits to share too, if that's something.
Absolutely.
I only have it with the council members there. I apologize, I didn't realize there was so many of y'all would be up here.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Name's Jonas Fuller. I do live within the city limits. I want to discuss the current bid process for the city of Amarillo and my concerns for all taxpayers within the city of Amarillo. Today you will be voting on consent item Q. I want to bring some information to the council so that they can get a full grasp of how the current bid process is not being good stewards of tax dollars. Consent item Q was first bid in December 2021. Exhibit A shows the bid totals from that opening, and you will see the low bid was roughly $661,000 less than the second lowest bid. The city canceled the project after bids were received due to being over budget, giving the impression that cost was an important factor. When the project was re-advertised for an offer 5 months later, the size of the project was more extensive, specs were added that increased the project's cost. As a result, the areas of repair increased in size, paving thickness increased, flex base was added, concrete traffic control barriers became a requirement. Additionally, the scoring requirement on the city's best value bid process award changed. See Exhibit B. The value based on cost dropped, the bidder qualification portion increased, safety remained the same, and the time qualification, which truly could add value to the project, was eliminated altogether. The vote you'll be taking today is based on the bid results from the second time the project was let. You can see the bid results in Exhibit C. This time the low dollar bid on the project is $656,000 below the second bidder. According to the recommendation from your CPD&E director, you are voting to award the contract for 34% more than the low bid. I understand the thinking going behind a best value bid process in certain situations. However, using the city's current model for determining best value bid on this project has failed its purpose. In a highly specified and designed project, the end product is determined by the plans and specs and not which contractor performed the work. In this situation, there's no better value between any of the bidders that turned in a bid. All contractors have to deliver the exact same product. They have to follow the same traffic control requirements. They have to deliver the materials that meet the city specs, and they have to deliver it within the time the city specified or face a financial penalty. If you look at the scoring sheet in your packet and my Exhibit D, there is a bidder that is $1.8 million higher than the low bid, and they received a higher ranking than the low bidder. How is a bid that requires the city to pay almost double for the same product the best value for the city and its taxpayers? Mr. Stanley, I know that you're a business owner in the city. I hope you can look at this and realize that if you conducted your business the same way, you would not be financially solvent. So when you took office, you should have done so with the concern of the taxpayers' dollars as a priority. At a time when people are struggling to make ends meet, city wants to raise taxes to meet increasing budgets and take on projects that would need funding outside of the tax monies bring in, and inflation is at record high. How does it make sense to spend $656,000 in additional taxpayer fund when it's not necessary? The current model of the best value bid process used by the city does not provide best value and wastes taxpayer money. I ask the council to consider removing item Q from this meeting's consent items and explain why spending 34% more for the same product is truly the best value to the city of Amarillo taxpayers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Next up is Michael Ford, and our last speaker after Mr. Ford will be Kenneth Flores.
Mayor, Council, I've been in front of you several times. My name is Mike Ford, resident of Amarillo, to talk about, my time's up already?
You're good.
To talk about following the Open Meetings Act. That's one of the issues I want to talk to you about today. But Mayor, we met 38 weeks ago at your request for an hour. And I'm judging by, you were going to let me know what your thoughts were on following state law, but I'm judging by the fact that we're still having the same preamble, that your decision is the same. That we're going to pick and choose what we're going to follow in the Open Meetings Act. I'll just talk about from the municipal code, all meetings of the city council shall be held in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, as now or amended. What we're choosing from is basically a very defined interpretation of public testimony. You're allowing people to talk on the agenda, only on agenda items that is not in comport with the Open Meetings Act. We've talked about that. I've presented that several times in several different ways. 551042 allows people to ask you and inquire about anything that is under the sun, literally, and that's in accordance with John Corn Opinion 0169. You know that, and it's public knowledge. The other thing I'd like to talk about, and it'd be great if you guys would start following the law. That would be wonderful. The other thing I'd like to talk about is ordinances. There's two ordinances among many on today's agenda, 7986, 7987. There are first readings, there's public hearings and first readings on several ordinances on today's agenda. These two are second and final readings that are on the consent agenda. Then I go back to previous meeting and I see ordinance 7984. And I think you'll know what I'm leading to. This was found in the agenda packet. It was subject to a public hearing and a first reading and a second reading. The ordinance that we just recently passed, 7985, that was for the largest use of anticipation notes in the state's history, $260 million, is not to be found. And I wonder, Mr. Smith, what you used to make your initial motion to adopt this ordinance, Dr. Sauer, which you used for the second, because it does not exist. And this is a $260 million ordinance that I went and asked the city secretary yesterday where it is, and it's not to be found. And so we're still producing something. Section 15 of the municipal code says you have to have it in writing. There has to be a caption that you have to be able to adjudge, and it can't be passed in the first reading unless it's an emergency ordinance. And that has to be a unanimous vote. So how is this passed and it's not even in existence? Where is it? Where is the ordinance? $260 million of anticipation notes, and it's nowhere to be found. Where is it? Anybody? This is a factual question. You can actually respond to me according to the state law, and you know that, Mr. City Attorney. Anybody? Nobody knows where this ordinance is that was just passed for $260 million.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. We appreciate your questions. And
then is anybody going to answer it, Mayor? Is anybody going to answer it? Where is this ordinance?
What we're trying to avoid is getting into a dialogue with you here at the podium that might slide into something that we've not posted on the agenda. That's what we're
very careful with.
That's what we're trying to be very careful about.
Where is it?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would like to know that.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Our last speaker today for public address is Kenneth Flores.
I bid you all good afternoon. At the last meeting, I had lost my voice, so it was kind of hard for me to be heard, but I think I'm doing good now. Also, want to let you know, at the end of when you took your vote, I was not here. I would have liked to have been here, but I work evenings, so I have to get to work. And so I won't be able to stay this time either. But hopefully you'll have a good feeling of where I stand. This on your agenda, this is item 2E, the rezoning of Belmont Park, lots 13 and 14. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. This is manufactured housing district all the way around, nearby. It consists of single-wide manufactured housing in that area all around. It's not out of norm for the extended area. I know the boundaries is like 200 foot from the property. They do their research and take that information and bring it in. But also beyond that, there is still other manufactured housing in the area. So I think it would be a great project for me to complete over there. And it also, I believe my plans for it would actually bring up that area. You know, you have a park there, you have schools and stuff, so I think it'd be really good to bring manufactured housing to those, at least my two lots, mine and my wife's, and let some folks move in there and actually dwell in that area. And with the newer homes coming in and stuff, it's bound to be, I think, a good thing for that area. The original intent for that area previously, because right now it's set up for retail, and prior to that it was manufactured housing, and so we're asking it to be placed back to manufactured housing so we can continue with our project and develop those homes. I want to thank you, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear me, each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Mayor, that concludes public address.
Thank you. I will address a couple of questions to the city attorney with regard to what Mr. Ford was asking about. Are we in compliance with the Open Meetings Act in doing our public address procedure? Are we in compliance?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, and then I had another question about the statute that he was questioning on the Civic Center vote. It was a little unclear exactly what he was saying that we didn't have, and I think he was making a reference to the fact that we only voted once on that ordinance. Our charter says that we vote twice on ordinances. Do you mind giving an explanation as to whether or not that was a lawful vote for the city council to take, and why?
It's completely lawful. What you were taking a vote on was a security instrument that's controlled by state law. State law prevails. The provision that talks about the vote prevails over any charter provision and under any municipal code provision. Thus, what council did was completely legal.
And why does state law trump our charter on that? Because it seems like our charter is what we've approved. How can state law come alongside and trump that?
It's a great question. The reason why is because it is a security instrument that's been authorized by state statute. It requires oversight by the Attorney General, and to streamline the process, the legislature passed that law so that all entities, governmental entities, if they were going to use that kind of security instrument, would use the same method and same mode, both in their process of passing it and in its way that it is looked at by the AG's office. So it's to streamline the entire proceeding, and you also have to remember that because it's a security instrument, you've got financial institutions that are depending on certain interest rates, the notes by which they are negotiated, the provisions of the contract. All of those things have to be set in stone before the Attorney General can review it. And so if you were waiting weeks and weeks, or maybe 3 or 4 days even, where you've got one ordinance and then a different ordinance, the AGs wouldn't really they wouldn't know what ordinance they were supposed to review. It's to streamline the entire process so that one city's process isn't different than another, and to make it more efficient. I hope that gives you what you need.
So let me summarize it and see if I understood what you said. Despite what different charters all across the state would say for cities, banking for cities is very important, and bank relationships rely a lot on what the interest rates are. So like if you approach a bank and want to borrow, like if I did it even as a homeowner, I want to borrow $100,000 to buy a house, my bank is going to lock a rate for me, but I don't have that rate locked for weeks and weeks and weeks. I have a time certain. And cities have the same issue with banks. Yeah. So the state legislature recognized that no matter what a city's charter might say, this legislature said we're going to pick this time frame to be reasonable, and we only require one vote anytime a city or a county is voting on borrowing money from a bank, and it's because of the business model that the bank has got to be able to act quickly in order to follow through on the rate that they gave you. Is that a good summary?
It is. And like I said, there are even other reasons. Like I said, streamlining, making it more efficient within the bounds of the Attorney General review. All of those things make the process so that those entities can actually do the banking things they've got to do and have certainty as to what the note says and exactly what the impact will be for all the reasons that you articulated.
Council, do y'all have any questions for Brian or anything further that you think a citizen might want to know about that question? No. Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian. I'm going to pass the microphone to our city manager, who's got an announcement about staff.
Mayor, I just wanted to take a moment, and I probably should have done this right after you recognized me, and I think I got thrown off my game there briefly for that, so thank you for that. But we have a new interim director of utilities, Buzz Pishker, back there in the back. Wave your hand, Buzz. Come on up here to the microphone. Just wanted to draw y'all's attention to him. He has a very important department. All of our water and wastewater utilities are reporting to him right now. He's going to do a great job for us. He brings a huge amount of experience. I emphasize that he is interim only because, not because I don't want him to stay, because I would love for him to stay, but he's very focused on doing a great job for us and then moving back into doing a great job with his family, I guess. I'm going to put some words in your mouth. But just a little bit of history on Buzz. Was most recently the Director of Utilities at the City of Arlington, but while that's a big deal, one of the biggest cities in Texas, it's not even close to the breadth of his experience. Cum laude from Ohio State University. I guess it's do they call it something else?
The Ohio State
University.
Ohio State University.
Yeah, I didn't want to misnomer it. Got his MBA from University of Illinois, Class 3 water operator license in Ohio, Class A water operator license in Illinois, Class A operator license in Texas. Not a lot of people have multiple states where they're a Class A water operator. So that's our Class A, Class 3, which I think the Ohio thing is the equivalent of a Class A. Leadership capacity and executive management, variety of public and private organizations for 33 years, serving on boards, serves as an adjunct professor, come to serve us in this interim role. But we say in a variety of public and private organizations. One of the organizations that he worked for provided water to over 150 cities. Isn't that right? And did I get the number right?
That's correct.
So basically he was providing water to Illinois or Ohio or both. Enjoys golfing, college sports, registered as a high school basketball official for 41 years. So he has a sight issue. Wait, that's baseball. Both natives of Hubbard, Ohio, glad to be here in Amarillo. They have relocated for this interim assignment. So he's going to be here for a good number of months and help us out through a very critical period. So, Buzz, do you have anything you want to throw in there?
Yes. Obviously, mayor, council, city manager, I certainly appreciate the kind introduction. And a couple things I'd like to say to council. I can tell you that being a new person in town, and when you do that, and it comes with a little bit of trepidation. But I can tell you that everybody I've been associated with at the city, staff, et cetera, has been incredibly welcoming, and I appreciate that. And the employees that I've had a chance to work with now for 2.5 weeks have been just great. So that's a compliment to the city council and the department heads, et cetera. And then the other thing I'd say to you, having a resume is a wonderful thing, but I'm a big fan of what are you doing for me lately. And it was great to hear the mayor discuss the city manager's tenure and that he's made some significant improvements, and we're a better place for him being here. So my hope will be that when my assignment here ends, that you will say the same thing about me. But this will be my focus, and I'll try to bring all the expertise I have to your fine community.
Thank you, Buzz. Welcome. We're
Thank
glad
you.
to have you. Okay, let's move on to section 1 of our agenda, reviewing the agenda items in your packet, Council. Is there anything right up front you needed more information or had questions about?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item Q on the consent agenda when we get to that point so that we
Okay.
can have a discussion.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to item B then, 1B, updates from council members serving on outside boards and commissions. First item is Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Advisory Committee. Councilmember Smith?
Thank you. Yes, I met with the committee recently. We had a very good meeting. The name of the committee is Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee. So let me talk about the bicycle part first. We have a fairly new member, Chris Podzimity, and he's head of an organization called Sixth Pack Outdoors. He builds trails, mountain bike trails. He's done that in various communities in the Panhandle, and he's done it here in Amarillo. He's built 15 miles of trails at Rick Klein Sports Complex, 4.43 miles of trails at John Stiff Memorial Park, 4.84 miles of trails on the 9th Street trails. He's done a fantastic job. In the past, we've said we want to be more bikeable and walkable. And so he's making it more bikeable. And I appreciate that. I've been on a lot of the trails that he's built. He's built all the trails at Paldera Canyon, which I used to ride a lot. Still going to be doing it, hopefully. So, and then the other thing is about making us more walkable. Two members of the committee have been appointed to review how we can connect walkable trails throughout the city. So they're going to be meeting with Donnie Hooper and identifying where we need to make connectivity. So that's I'm excited about that. That's going to be real good. That's all I got on that, unless there's questions.
Can we hit the go button on those more walking trails? That's exciting.
Next week, yeah.
Next week.
Quick enough?
Can you bring that report back at the next meeting? Let us know how many of those you got done the last
I'll see what I can
next
do.
2 weeks. Okay.
don't know.
Councilmember Stanley, do you have questions?
Yes. So for Howard, do we have funding options that you've got in these plans that will come up in budget, or are we still looking for ways to fund these things?
Well, it's kind of too early to tell that. Some of them may not cost anything.
Okay.
So, but where they're going to cost money, we could be applying. Understand there may be grants that could help do this.
Okay. Yeah, that was it. I just kinda
Appreciate
wanted to
that
know
question.
if we
That's a
had
great
anything
question.
Worked out. Thank you.
Anybody down here? Done?
I'm done.
Okay. The next one is Beautification and Public Arts Advisory Board. Councilmember Sauer?
Okay, so I'm going to throw the gauntlet down. I got to inherit Kat. She is now the
Some of us are
person that's
unhappy
handling
about that inheritance, by the
Beautification
way.
and Public arts, and guess what she did for me? She got me a PowerPoint.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
Here you
guys.
go.
Just, you know,
This might be a first. I'm not sure we've ever had a council member give a committee update with a PowerPoint.
Well, it's all Kat.
Okay, well.
I have to be honest. It's all Kat.
Okay, so my expectations are going to be high now.
Yeah. Like I said,
Says the
I'm just throwing
CVB
the gauntlet.
director.
Okay, so
the first thing is we met on June the 14th, and we talked about several different things, ArtPad, program launch, actually. So, we've, last year's money that we had for beautification, we put 6 pads to display art potentially in the 6 regional parks in town. And so the 14th at Starlight Theater, that was the presentation of the first piece of art installation by Jacob Breeding, Don't Be Such a Square. And so there's a couple of pictures here to kind of let you see the installation being brought in and exactly what this public art has the ability to do. And it's set up perfectly. It's right to the right, which would be to the east of the stage, and it's in view, and you can tell right there by the fact that Jacob's in the middle of it climbing on it. So it's basically a climbable piece of art pretty much. But these are the kind of things that the Beautification Arts Committee that we have actually now got the potential to help provide for the city going forward is pieces of art that can be moved around. And these pads, it's real important for you guys to see these pads and realize that this is the same type of pad as in the 6 different parks. There's also 2 at Thompson Park Pool. And this is going to allow for our artists here in town that want to do sculptures or large pieces of art for our beautification of the city. It's going to allow that to go forward and happen. And so here's a couple of pictures of us that are on the committee that were there at the night that presentation was made. And so it's a really, it's a really great thing. That's been an honor to be on that committee for the entire time and watch this go from trying to figure out exactly where we fit and what we could do to actually seeing things come to life in the city, and it's pretty awesome. The next thing on our agenda was we found out that the Texas Runs on Water Foundation, along with Panhandle Groundwater District, they had a mural donation, and the place where it was originally going to be placed, it turned out it wasn't going to work. And I feel sorry for them that it didn't fit what needed to happen, because the city of Amarillo actually is going to be the lucky recipients of that. And it's going up right now at 8th and Johnson on the facilities building on the north wall, and Blank Space is doing it. And take a look at what this is going to look like.
That is so cool.
Outstanding. It really is outstanding, and it's going to be a beautiful piece of art that just goes along with the rest of the murals that are popping up all over town. There will be an official presentation of the mural on July the 14th at 4 o'clock, and I would invite everybody to come and see what's happening. And another thing about this that I'll just say kind of a little bit off the record is Blank Spaces. It has really become quite a deal between Amarillo Independent School District and actually, I guess, the city of Amarillo, because they have provided 7 of the 8 murals that were up for grabs for the grants this year. And this is the kind of work that they are performing. And you need to understand these are high school kids that are earning their chops with real life experiences doing this, and they're doing a phenomenal job. And I can't say enough about how great that actually is. The other things that are kind of that we talked about is we've been talking with XL Energy about doing some murals on junction boxes, those junction boxes that you see around town. And so right now what's actually happened is we've worked out with XL Energy that they have given approval for an installation of art at the 500 South Buchanan Street. So that's actually, if it's in the parking lot of the Globe News Performing Arts Center on that north side of the parking lot. So they're going to they're going to do a piece of art for that part of it. Another thing that has happened is, Dusty McGuire, she did such a great job and had a 501c3 Keep Amarillo Beautiful, and she has passed away. She passed away, I believe, in January, and she actually bequeathed to the city of Amarillo the Keep Amarillo Beautiful designation, and that's a prize. That is quite a prize for us to be able to have, and so we will move into how do we assume and how does the board assume that ability to take over that 501c3 and keep Amarillo Beautiful moving forward. We're continuing to work with TxDOT and have had some good meetings with the office here in Amarillo about figuring out how maybe we can do some mural art on crosswalks and how we can do mural art on underpasses and those kind of things. And so that's all in the works. And so it's just, it's really great at what's actually beginning to take place. And so that's my report. Any questions?
It all sounds great.
It is.
It definitely sounded, I just went blank on the software. What's that presentation called?
PowerPoint.
Oh, it sounded PowerPoint worthy. That was a great report, Dr. Sauer. Thank you. And thank you to Kat and that committee that are doing great work. I am going to use the mayor's authority to shift us order-wise further down the agenda because we have an important item today that has a press conference scheduled with it. And so if y'all will just give me the grace to go ahead and move down to action item in section 3 of our agenda, 3A. And let's take that item out of order in order to stay on schedule for what we hope will be a press conference at 2 o'clock. So, Mr. City Manager, can we do item 3A, please?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
That is consider award for the fiber broadband internet service provider ISP service.
Yes, ma'am. We got Rich Guyon, Managing Director, to present the item. Rich, take it away.
Thank you. Let's see. We'll go ahead and get the presentation up. I couldn't be more excited to be here today. It was a great day for Amarillo. But I am going to pause on the front end because I feel like I need to say thank you. I need to say thank you for the immediate and impactful partnership that AT&T is offering us on this project. I want to say thank you to our consultant, Melissa Ashurst with Impact Broadband, without whose expertise and knowledge it's had a huge impact on the broadband project and is still having impact as we try to bring this smart city of the future vision into reality. But most of all, I want to say thank you to council. Not only did you recognize 2 years ago the impact of the digital divide when COVID hit us, but you saw and forecasted accurately that that impact was going to be amplified and made permanent by just the norms that are coming out of a post-COVID world. Those impacts are hitting our citizens harder than the digital divide ever did, and they're not going away. They're permanent. I also want to say thank you for the patience. Council brought this to me and my staff and my committee, which was made up of the mayor, Howard Smith, our CFO, Laura Storrs, Melissa, obviously, and much of my staff. But we were given a lot of grace and patience in a time when the technology was shifting greatly. The fiscal environment was changing, the political environment was changing, the regulatory environment was changing. All as at the federal, state, and local level, we tried to figure out, okay, how do we deal with this new world and address this broadband problem? So over those 2 years, we've tested a multitude of technologies. And you can't just test technology, you have to understand the financial implications of every technical solution. Missy worked with Melissa and built over 81 different financial models. So it is with great confidence I can say today that the solution that I bring before you today is not only the best technical solution that we could find, but the best financial solution for the city. No, there we go. See, it impacts me too. Okay. So what AT&T is proposing is to provide fiber connectivity to every home, multi-tenant dwelling, every apartment complex, and every business for about half of our city. The coverage area runs on the west from Western all the way to the east out to Whitaker, as far north as Panhandle, which is about a block off of the loop, and as far south as 29th. What you're seeing in green are areas that they've already committed to and started. In purple would be the additional areas that they would be adding through this RFP answer. That's about 22,873 customer locations. There in the RFP, they estimate that they would have this about 40% complete in 12 months, which means 40% of those locations would have fiber connectivity, about 70% complete in 18 months, and we would see customers starting to connect in about 6 months. One of the most important parts of their plan is what they're thinking of for their base level plan. So what they would be providing at a base level, which means there would be nothing slower or cheaper, is 100 meg symmetrical, meaning 100 meg up and 100 meg down for $30 a month. That $30 a month is critical because that is the exact amount that is provided through the Affordable Connectivity Program. So the Affordable Connectivity Program will let low-income households get a benefit of $30 a month to pay for their broadband. All a citizen has to do is sign up for it. That payment goes directly to the provider. That means that any one of our citizens that's in the Lifeline program or a household with a child involved or enrolled in assisted school lunch or someone receiving Medicare or SSRI or on the SNAP program, a student with a Pell Grant, anyone that's receiving WIC benefits from the city, or a family of 4 making less than $53,000 a year would get that internet connectivity at zero cost to their household. Also important to note is it's not limited to 100 meg both ways, which means that businesses in those areas that today have no connectivity could have up to 5 gigabit connectivity to their business. I mean, can you imagine starting a business in today's climate without internet connectivity? And that is the reality for many of the neighborhoods that we're addressing here. And here's the really what everyone really wants to see. At the end of the day, this is a $2 million commitment out of ARPA funds, out of the broadband funds that council committed to solving the broadband problem. And in return, AT&T is bringing more than $20 million of investment for fiber infrastructure. This is the first project of this scale in the state of Texas. So Amarillo will be leading the way for the rest of the state. But we're not going to stop there. Should this be approved today, we're immediately moving into our next steps. It's not enough just to connect our citizens. The Amarillo Public Library has been on the leading edge of addressing this problem. As you're probably aware, they already have 10 hotspots per library that citizens can check out today. And that is for our most vulnerable citizens who may not have a fixed location that they call home. For students that are couch surfing, I've already talked to 2 families where there's been a death in the family, and they've had students move to an aunt and uncle's house, or situations like that, where now we can immediately get those kids connected while the family absorbs the loss and moves on. But they're taking it a step further. AT&T has partnered directly with the Public Library Association for driving digital enablement, and we're going to take that model local. As you know, we've been working with Harvard Bloomberg on using the innovation strategies on illegal dumping. We're going to take the same approach when it comes to digital enablement. Today we have representatives from our communities, the communities like San Jacinto, the North Heights, Eastridge, and the Barrio. We're going to meet with them individually, and we're going to drive this down to the local level so that we're not just putting up placards at City Hall or in the library, but we're delivering content that is impactful in areas like Eastridge, where we have multiple communities that we have to address. And AT&T's already volunteered and is translating press releases and other important information into several of the languages that we need to make sure that we address those communities. And then, of course, we've already started efforts on how do we get devices into the hands of those that need them most. So with an approval today, we've already started putting together the plan for how do we not just get folks connected, but how do we make this most impactful. And then before I move to questions, I wanted to give the Regional Vice President for AT&T, Fred Maldonado, a moment to say a few words from AT&T.
You're on, Fred.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Miller, on your 5 years. I think when I took over this region, it was 5 years ago as well, so, but congratulations. Good afternoon. Fred Maldonado, AT&T. I'm honored to be here with you today, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, for this announcement that marks Amarillo leaders as the most innovative, most forward-thinking, with eyes squarely on making Amarillo, like Rich alluded, the smart city, the technology city of the future. Communities in Texas have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to expand broadband to underserved areas using federal funds available through the American Rescue Plan, states, and local fiscal recovery funds. The city of Amarillo has done an incredible job putting together this public-private partnership in recognizing the wonderful opportunity that we have to connect our citizens and ensure everyone has access to fast, secure, reliable internet. We are proud to be part of this effort, and Amarillo's work will serve as the roadmap of success for other cities and local governments throughout the great state of Texas, and to add on throughout the nation as well. Partnering with an established proven private sector partner is important to ensuring that Rich had alluded that your connectivity solutions are backed with experience and the scale to deliver the best technology available. In our public-private partnership with Amarillo, AT&T will assume all risk for building and maintaining the local network, thus freeing up the city's public resources to address other local priorities. We encourage all communities to follow the city of Amarillo's example. I'm almost done here. I'm very proud that in Amarillo, city leaders chose AT&T Fiber. Okay. AT&T Fiber would provide a fast, reliable internet solution for today and tomorrow. With our fiber solution, Amarillo will be future-proofing the network for Amarillo's residents, students, businesses, and more. In that more, there's a lot to come. We're going to have a robust partnership with Rich and team, and of course you guys as well, on how we engage the community to make sure that they reap the benefits of what's being done today. So to conclude, this is an important milestone for the city of Amarillo and the state of Texas to show how public-private partnerships can help close the digital divide. We again appreciate your foresight and vision, and we are really ready to serve the citizens of Amarillo. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. Rich, anything further?
No. Any questions?
Council, any questions for Rich, for Fred, or the AT&T team? Okay, good.
Explain, you said people of certain categories could get this service at zero cost. What percentage of all these would be? Is that half of the people, or?
Well, 68% of just under 68% of our students are on the assisted lunch program. And every one of those households qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program.
Any other questions?
No, just a statement. I just want to say job well done, and thank you to you and your team. And it's just sad that we had to see this come about, kind of out of COVID, and with our school kids not being able to, access the internet or even have a computer, but to be able to do their homework. So, I think that this is great, and I love it that we get to partner with a reputable company such as AT&T. So thank you for being here.
I just wanted to touch, you said over 22,000, almost 23,000 customer locations in the coverage that we're getting inside the city limits. Is that correct, Rich? That's huge. That's amazing. We're so excited about this. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Councilmember Stanley.
So, thank you. Just the devices. Expand on that just a little bit in the way of this is step one, let's get connectivity. We're able to partner together. I definitely see the benefit in that. Are you referring to future grants that are allowable for
That's
students
exactly
who
right.
qualify for these devices?
That's exactly right. We're looking at there are other grant opportunities, and we're working with partners such as Amarillo Area Foundation, Region 16, several other partners to look at. Okay, how can we partner together to solve the digital literacy problem? How do we get affordable devices in the right hands? Because that's how these big problems get solved. They don't get solved by rich at the city. They get solved by the city working with private sector, working with education, working with nonprofit. And that's something I think that's a little unique about our environment here in the Panhandle. Is it's not uncommon for us to go across agency lines and pull together as a team to solve a problem. So we're taking the exact same approach to the devices as well.
Yeah, I think it's, for me as well as the rest of the council, it's important to see that you guys are going after those grants and those grant monies that are there that are our federal tax dollars that are going to go somewhere, and you're trying to resource those to our community. These are not our property taxes or sales tax dollars going into anything like that type of a program. And so that's probably my direction of the question. I appreciate the answer.
Okay. Thank you then. We appreciate
It's been a privilege for me to work with Rich and the mayor and Laura Stores on this project for 2 years. This is a wonderful thing that we're going to be doing.
Thank you. The privilege has been mine, I assure you.
We appreciate your work on it, Howard, your vision for it, your support for it. Howard is a tireless worker. If you've not worked with Howard on a project, he can ask questions for a very long time, very consistently, and the persistence is something that I respect and admire greatly, and it really has helped push this project across the line. So thank you very much for your work and your leadership, Howard.
Thanks.
And Rich, we would be amiss if we didn't say thank you for believing in this vision, for continuing to lead your team in a way that they could truly innovate. We didn't realize at the time that we were following innovation strategy and theory, but you guys have been modeling it before we knew what to call it. So thank you for getting us to this point. And with that, I would ask the council if anyone has a motion they want to make.
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve the award of a contract for fiber broadband internet service for the use in the Amarillo Connected Broadband Project to AT&T in the amount of $2 million.
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Powell and seconded by Council Member Smith to approve item 3A. Any further questions or discussions about that motion? No? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That item passes with the 5-0 vote. And with that, we're going to take a moment to recess and go down and do a press conference about this historic project. And then we'll come back up to council chambers and pick back up where we left off. In 306, Jordan? And we'll go back into finishing our discussion items, where we'll pick back up with council reports, and we'll go to Councilmember Smith for Environmental Task Force.
Thank you. Environmental Task Force met recently, had a good discussion, and I've mentioned this before, but we're interested in and we've started a public service campaign asking citizens to mulch their lawns instead of bagging their grass. Benefits to that include saving space in landfill, reintroducing helpful minerals into the lawns, and not filling up our dumpsters with clippings. I'm going to ask Dottie Hooper to come up and kind of give a report and show you something on the screen.
Yeah, we couldn't let Councilman Sauer overdo while y'all were at a press conference, we created
Cashin, did you have an opportunity to create one during the recess?
I'm actually making that part up, but yeah, it's our point to have some information on it. I love our environmental task force because sometimes in that group it's very difficult to come up with things that we can change or at least advise about environmental issues in general, because there's no big budget, there's nothing to work from, there's nothing that we can go buy. And if we had that, it would be a totally different story. But the mindset of the people that are on this committee is incredible. We have people on there that are master gardeners. We have some people on there that are electricians that are just smarter than everybody in the room. We have just a great group of people that like to put their heads together to come up with something. So what they did is they said, what can we do to help the public in a way and advise them of something environmental? And they came up with the idea of mulching grass. And I thought at first, okay, that's a good idea. But I learned so much with the information that they brought to the table that the next time I mowed my lawn, I thought, I better take the bag off and change this, because as you'll see, and I don't really want to read all the bullet points that are in the slideshow here, but some of the things that they came up with are on these fact sheets here that you see in front of you. It saves space in our landfill, which is very dear to me. It also, in a time when we're having issues sometimes with our garbage collection, it's filled up with grass, and people will call and say our dumpsters are completely full. Well, that's because there's 4 or 5 lawns worth of grass that are accepted there, or a contractor puts them in there. So it really opened my eyes to how important it is to mulch our lawns.
And it's hard on our dumpsters because it's wet and moist. And if you want to know why the bottom of your dumpster rotted out, it's probably because you were all putting grass clippings in there and they molded up. And okay, I'm just saying.
Absolutely correct. It rusts the bottom out, and it's very corrosive to it. So so they said, okay, well, let's build a video. Let's put something together with this, and can we just put something together with graphics and some things like that? Well, I got with our communications department, and by the way, if you don't know, they're fantastic. Got with them and said, what do you think we could do with this? And they said, let's put a video together. We can do it. Get everybody together. We'll have a video shoot, and we'll do it. So there are some pictures. This is just setting out we were out in the lawn just to the east of City Hall, between here and the Civic Center. And this is Joy giving instructions to all the cast as they're out there getting ready to do their lines. And of course, Chase was the man behind the camera, which is incredible as well. And trying to get the sun just right. And also, we felt like we were in a big Hollywood production out there. And so I think that they really enjoyed it. We did have 2 members that were unable to make it to the video shoot, but they were both very instrumental in putting it together and putting the facts together. This is about a 2-month project that we put together, and now we have officially a PSA that we can have to go out on all of our social media channels and anywhere else that we want to put it to help Amarilloans understand the importance of mulching our lawns. So
yes.
We'll go ahead and play that presentation this evening.
We also just finished the fireworks PSA. Pretty good with Carla. Yeah.
Love your lawn and help the environment by mulching your grass.
The City of Amarillo Environmental Task Force asks you to mulch and not bag.
Mulching grass reintroduces essential minerals to your lawn such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Mulching reduces the need for fertilizer to maintain the health of your lawn.
Mulching your lawn provides hydration that is a huge benefit during drought and excessive heat.
Grass is 80% water, so it makes sense to mulch it.
Mulching your yard clippings reduces the mass of waste that makes their way into the strained landfills.
By mulching your lawn, you save time mowing.
In the time you take bagging your lawn, you could be sipping lemonade and enjoying your beautiful lawn.
The City of Amarillo Environmental Task Force encourages you to mulch.
Love your lawn and help the environment.
Oh, that is so good.
Cool. And they came up with the slogan, the love your lawn and help the environment. They came up with that on their own, and we thought that was cool. There's a national campaign for this exact thing, but they said, we don't want to use that. We want to do it local. So I think they did a great job. And now Howard can't say anything about any of my videos because he was in one and he was the star of it now, right? So, but we had a really good time doing that, and I think that was some great fruit from this group to be able to put back out to the public and do something good. They all had a good time. I think Howard could probably attest to that. So.
That concludes my report.
Wow.
Got any questions?
Wow, Eddie, that might have, yeah, we've broken the record twice in one day.
I'm just glad I'm not cashing.
Raise the bar. Hey, I'm not worried about this. CVB team's going to do just fine. That's excellent, Howard. Great work. Would you please give our appreciation to the committee, Donnie, both of you? That's fantastic. Okay. Absolutely. Convention and Visitors Bureau, Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes, ma'am. Ready to go. We don't need visuals. We perform it every day. So the Convention and Visitor Bureau Board, we met on June 22nd, and so we had a really short agenda. We just have a few bullet points to highlight, but the CVB financials are on track with our budget, and we're expected to finish the year within our budget, which is great. The 2020-2021 fiscal year audit has been completed, and there were no problems, no issues or findings there. The marketing report, we covered the partner co-ops, and all of our co-ops are performing very well and above the industry thresholds. And CVB is going to expand this program into the next fiscal year. And then Laura Storrs, who is our Chief Financial Officer as well as our Assistant City Manager, she presented a presentation in regards to the improvement to the Civic Center. And so that was our meeting for the board.
Thank you. Any questions for Mayor Pro Tem about that?
And also Cashin Smith, who is the Executive Director, is also in the audience, as you're aware.
Thank you guys for being here today. Okay, item 1C is an update on the Bloomberg Harvard Innovation Track Program. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor. Jordan Schutbach is our Director of Communications, but he's also our team lead for our innovation track work that we are doing with Bloomberg Harvard. We did an update through Jordan and the entire innovation team to council last week, and this is just to give a recap of that and answer any questions council might have. So, Jordan, take it away.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jordan Schupach. As the city manager mentioned, I'm the director of communications. I'm also honored to serve as the innovation team lead for the city of Amarillo. Many of you were in attendance on the 15th of June, a week and a half ago, when we presented our midpoint presentation. I did want to just create a shorter version of that presentation to show anybody else that wasn't able to attend, so that we could give them a really quick update on the progress of the team as well. As a note, the entire presentation is available. It's about 24 minutes long, which I thought was too long to keep some of you, and especially Donnie, today. But otherwise, I'd like to show the brief version that we have and then have the other version available for future reference. Here's the thing about innovation. It's not a destination you get to or a box you can check. It's a journey. The innovation track is designed to help cities think outside the box to generate the best solutions with their residents. This 10-month training program helps cities learn how to adopt design-based innovation techniques that engage residents in testing, adapting, and scaling creative ideas with lasting impact. We want to create solutions that work for everyone. The City of Amarillo Innovation Team includes 11 cross-departmental city staff, all committed to active and meaningful participation through the entire program.
It begins by outlining the 5 mindsets that a person must consider when approaching a problem from an innovative perspective. Those mindsets are impact-driven, creative, people-centered, iterative, and collaborative. The first of 3 phases is the understand phase. During this part of the program, we learn how to frame the problem and then conduct and evaluate research until we are able to reframe the problem and really lock down our goals. The second phase is the generate phase. This is the phase that our team is about to enter in and we're really excited about. During this phase, we'll learn to ideate and prototype possible solutions and then test and refine them until we're ready to pilot those ideals in our community. That leads us to the deliver phase. The third phase is our opportunity to truly test out our solutions and to track the progress and measure the impacts of our programs.
After our team was formed, we had to identify the problem of choice for our innovation track. We didn't have to look too hard. Illegal dumping is an issue that has affected the city of Amarillo for decades, with impacts that ripple through every corner of the city.
Today we're going to talk with Donnie.
So I'm Donnie Hooper. I'm the Director of Public Works.
What is the problem with the illegal dumping?
You know, there's so many issues with illegal dumping, but one of the main things that illegal dumping causes is illegal dumping. If you have somewhere where there's an illegal dumping site, it's always going to generate more. More people are going to see that. They're going to say, oh, it's okay to put it there. And so it's just this redundant problem that generates over and over and over.
After all, it's easy to see why illegal dumping is a problem for the solid waste department, but we wanted to know why it was a problem for the community. How does it affect our neighbors?
It was time to proceed on to the next major step in understanding the problem, which is conducting research. We conducted dozens of interviews with people representing each of the stakeholder groups. We knew we needed to lean in to understanding how community members experience challenges related to illegal dumping, as they are the real-life experts on the day-to-day impact of that problem.
We needed to interact with the community and with business owners and with neighborhoods that it affected. The interviews were extremely helpful to us and challenged many of our assumptions. We took all the data we collected and we began to make it make sense.
With all the initial research that was conducted by all the participants, we gathered all that information into one area, and then from there we identified trends. Then we narrowed those down into more specific categories so we could start to identify core contributors or some of the core challenges with illegal dumping. That led us into creating our 5 core insights, which are leading our efforts at this point.
Our first insight was city collection operations need consistent, clear communication. Solid waste policies are not always consistently implemented and communicated. Communication barriers discourage citizens and perpetuate mistrust.
Our second insight is some property owners prioritize economics over long-term community building. Landlords run their business to get an income, and there is oftentimes no mechanism to incentivize landlords to do more than the minimum.
So insight 3 and 4 are really similar. High renter turnover is a barrier in forming true community. The high degree of turnover in San Jacinto specifically prevents a sense of pride and community, which contributes to problems with illegal dumping. Additionally, the ratio of owners to renters in San Jacinto is too low to nurture the growth of community.
Our final insight revealed that the homeless population is picking up items and furniture dumped illegally, creating clutter and randomly scattered items in the neighborhood. Not only does that make it more difficult to pick up, it can also spread bed bugs and create other health issues.
So now it's been 4 months. Getting to this point in the process has been fun and hard and frustrating and exciting, but the team has really gathered around each other and aligned with a common goal.
I loved getting the community involved and going out into the community and interviewing those to really gain their perspective of how this affects them.
This process has kind of given us the ability to just work through failure a little bit and be okay and comfortable with acknowledging that it exists.
One of the big things that I think we learned it in here, we talked about it as a group, is that there's so many multitude of ways that people gain their information. And so if we're not tuned in all of those ways to put our information out, it really doesn't matter.
And I think the future is bright. That's the exciting thing as well. This team is here to work on illegal dumping, but I think that every single one of us knows that this is far more reaching than
the impact that we'll have there.
I'm really excited to see how we can partner with the citizens through processes like this, where it starts to feel like we're advocating for each other, where you build these relationships on this very grassroots, organic type of way, and then they start to become advocates with you.
So what now? Now it's time to generate and develop and test those new ideas. We'll continue to stay focused on being creative and collaborative and impactful. That's how we'll find the ideas that will work, and that's what's really exciting for us. This is only the beginning of the program for the city of Amarillo. We'll take this knowledge and these methods to other issues in Amarillo, and we'll know we're successful when it becomes a normal part of the way we do things, to the benefit of every one of our neighbors here at the city of Amarillo.
So that's a real quick recap. Our goal is to make an impact with the illegal dumping issue in the city of Amarillo, but our goal is much larger than that. It's really to create a culture. It's to create a new problem-solving method that permeates throughout the city for all staff and all departments. And this will take time, of course, but our goal is really to create this system where we interact more with citizens in their environments instead of asking them to come to us, and we hear about their problems where they live instead of asking them or making assumptions about what those problems are. So there's a whole lot that goes into it. It's very exciting. We are about to enter the next phase, which is the generate phase, where we start talking about actual solutions and ideas that might make impacts specific to this program. So I'm happy to answer any other questions or give any other information.
Jordan, one of the things we've been talking about at workshop the last couple of days is public engagement and how we as elected officials do a better job of governing when we can hear better and listen better to the public. And I think this is a tool, this training, this 10 months of training. I know at one point the Harvard folks told us this is like a $200,000 investment in our city, and they paid for it. It's not been out of our budget at all. It's a real investment going forward that gives us a new tool for how we can listen and engage with the public. I think that it's one of the most exciting things that I've worked on in 5 years of doing city work, because I can see the potential for doing public listening and public problem solving better. And so I think it ties into a lot of the conversation we had. Our consultant used the term a military-like operation for public engagement. This training is actually a tool that I think can lead to that type of communication and public engagement performance.
Yes, ma'am. I would definitely agree. And I would say that the really neat thing about the team that we have built is the commitment that each of us has made to take this training and move it further throughout the city, so that when we're at the end of the official 10-month track, it's not the end of the program, it's not the end of the learning that we've done or the progress that we've made. We really want to create a reputation as a team and as a group of people, and ultimately as a city that will get things done in partnership with the citizens that we serve. So we're excited about that.
Well, I just want to say, first, Council, any questions or follow-up on that?
I've got one.
Go.
It's a very impressive program, and I saw the whole 24-minute program or whatever it was. And one of the gentlemen from Harvard stated, as a result of a question asked, can we do this again? And he says it needs to we need to go through this 3 times. So this is 1 time. Do we have plans for at least 2 more times to get this procedure down?
Yes, sir. I will say that we're constantly, again, as a team, evaluating different issues within our own departments. People are bringing items to us that would be great ideas to work through, or great solutions, or great problems to find solutions for. As far as a concrete, this is our next program. We don't have that yet. We're trying to kind of get through this first one and make sure we have a really solid foundation of the mechanisms. But we have no intention of not doing a second and a third, and then a 4th and a 5th, and as many as we can.
When you get ready, I'll give you my personal ideas on what other things to tackle.
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I too had an opportunity to see the entire presentation as well. But one of the things that I look forward to is like you all started in Donnie's group, kind of like with illegal dumping. So hopefully with the other departments, that focus on customer service, you all would be able to help resolve some of those issues and, make our customer service better than what it is.
Yes, ma'am. I think one of the things that we're seeing as a common theme throughout is the need for improved communication, which I don't think is something that you finally land on. I think it's something that you're constantly working on.
Right.
And, every issue that's come to us as an opportunity or every issue that we have faced, regardless of what it is, has a communications component, oftentimes has a huge component to resolving or making the issue better. And so customer service is one great example of an area that we can really plug a lot of these things into.
Well, I think we can all be in agreement that we can always improve on customer service and also communications. So there's really no end goal for those two areas because it's always going to be ongoing.
Yes, ma'am. I would agree.
Excellent. Well, I just want to thank Jared. Again, your leadership sees the benefit of allowing 11 of your team members. And I would compliment Jordan and his team. I mean, they're still doing all of the things that they do in their regular day-to-day jobs. They're doing this training on top of, over and above that. So that's quite a commitment. But they'll be able to take that to each department that they're housed in and push that down, train other people, Howard, what you're asking for. So I think this is really city shaping. And I really, really appreciate the leadership vision that you're casting, Jared, and that Jordan and his team are executing. Thank you for your hard work.
I really just want to make sure that I take an opportunity to thank all of the team members who are actually in an innovation training program right now. So many of them couldn't be here, but they are doing the heavy lifting here, absolutely. And I just want to make sure that they all get the credit for all the work they're doing. So.
Mayor, I did want to point out one of the things we're going to try and do over the long term, or certainly over the medium term, is keep hitting different problems. Like Howard mentioned, takes three to really make it part of who we are as a culture, culturally into our organization. So the team that you saw in there, they are to a person, and don't let it go to anybody's heads, but they are rock stars. But we have a very deep organization filled with rock stars. We're going to keep doing this, and we're going to keep creating multi-departmental, interdisciplinary teams to address emerging or endemic problems. I know that sounded like a very bureaucratic statement of intent, but this is not for how do we get the right number of paper clips for a certain department. This is for the problems that are there and are problems for every community in our country. As ignoble as illegal dumping might sound, nobody has a solution for it. So anything we can do to make it better is going to be felt and appreciated, hopefully, by our community. This goes with a myriad of other problems that are chronic and are hard to solve, whether it's homelessness or you pick your hard problem. This is a problem-solving technique that can, while maybe not is the solution, can make things better and incorporate our community and their input in that problem-solving process in a way that we haven't done before. That's what we're about.
It's pretty awesome.
I have one more thing. Sorry, I forgot.
It's good.
We are looking for residents, community members, businesses, specifically from the San Jacinto area, who would be willing to work through the next phase of this with us. So if you know of anybody, renters, landlords, business owners, community members, anybody in the San Jacinto area that would be interested, I'd love to hear from them.
And should they just email publiccommunications@amarillo.gov?
Yes, ma'am. That's the best way to get to us really quickly.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay, we're to the part of the agenda, Council, where if you've got anything that you want to request as a report from the city manager or a future agenda item, now's the time to talk about that. Okay, we will move on to take up our consent agenda, and we are going to pull item Q from that. Anything else, Council, that needs to be removed for discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, do we have a motion then with regard to the consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item Q as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda minus item Q. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that item passes with a 5-0 vote. Let's move on and take up item 2Q. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, we've got Kyle Sneederjohn, Director of Community Development and Development Engineering, or Community Development, Capital Development. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, he's going to be presenting to you all the ins and outs and answer any questions council has on best value bidding. We went to best value bidding a number of years ago in response to just some challenges with low price, basing our bid selection solely on low price. Low price has cost us a lot of money over years, and that comes in either projects not being done to specification, materials, possibly time, possibly, and then it's not just price, it's impact on the community. If a project goes over the winter or if it takes a lot of time, it has an impact on our community. So we went to best value bidding so that we could incorporate not only low price, but capability of company to do something. And it's not just one, there's no one company that we've had problems with. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing, it's going to be the best tool to serve our community. So it's not just price, it's not just ability to do the project, it's not just past experience with the city or other things like that. It encapsulates all those things into a decision matrix that allows us to make the best value selection for the community. So Kyle, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jared, very much. Kyle Sneederjohn, Capital Projects and Development Engineering Director. And this item is actually consideration for the award of a project that is a trench line repair in Bolton Street from Southeast 13th to approximately Southeast 27th. As Jared mentioned, we did a best value bid evaluation for this construction project. And CP&D Engineering is recommending Amarillo Utility Contractors as the best value, and they are not the lowest cost associated with the bids that were submitted. Amarillo, effectively for this particular project, the best value criteria was put in place based on some of the characteristics of this project specifically. This project has been very impactful to the neighborhood that it is in. They had to endure the original construction process, and then had to endure the issues associated with the trench failures that have necessitated this follow-up project. And so we are sensitive to that it has already been impactful to that neighborhood and to the general public as a whole. The project is confined to a relatively small construction area, limited to the inside the existing right-of-way. The water line that we're repairing the trench for is in the paving, and that has been isolated for quite some time. And so that small construction area necessitates a good and efficient construction process. And the goals, those goals were reflected in the bid category. So if you look at how the contract was put together, it was put together, I apologize, I'm sniffing in the microphone, apologize for that, but if you look at how those bid criteria were put together, there is a higher rating in that criteria for qualification over price. If you, our best value process is a 3-panel member, 3 staff members are given basically the criteria that's written out in the spec book that went out to the contractors for bid, and they evaluate written questions, predetermined ideas of questions for price, and in this particular project, price, qualifications, and safety. And then they turn those scores blindly into the purchasing department, which combines those scores and comes up with and averages them, and then comes up with the recommendation for the best value associated through that process. Ultimately, with their scores, the evaluation committee members are recommending Amarillo Utility Contractors, who again was not the lowest price bidder, but that recommendation does consider the way that Amarillo Utility Contractors manages their jobs and manages their job sites. They perform their work in a very efficient and concise manner. I'm not aware in my 9-year tenure with the City of Amarillo of ever being in a overrun contract time in a contract with Amarillo Utility Contractors, nor have I considered liquidated damages on a contract with Amarillo Utility Contractors in my 9-year tenure. AUC has an excellent workmanship record and has a well-established pattern of proactive management strategies, as well as an excellent record on trench compaction and the on-site quality control that is required during construction to achieve good trench compaction. And they have an exemplary record in projects not having to be revisited for warranty work associated with trench compaction in the past. And as I mentioned, that is the failure modus that we are trying to remedy on this particular project. All of these things absolutely have a value to the general public and have a value to the taxpayer. And that evaluation is what is intended by the best value bidding process. And I believe the recommendation that we bring forward achieves that.
Council, questions for Kyle?
So on your 3-panel, I don't want to know the names,
Sure.
but how do you come up with your 3-panel?
Yeah, typically it's at least 2 members of my staff, which would generally be the design engineer and a supervising engineer, either the city engineer or the assistant city engineer. And then there would be 1 staff from who we view our client, the operations and maintenance department. So in this case, the utilities department has our third representative on the panel.
And so they answer these questions, or they grade these questionnaires not together, they do them separately on their own time without influence from each other?
Yes, sir. And there is a list of there is a list in the contract documents of the best value bid criteria, and that criteria does change project to project. So, for example, we looked at the criteria and the issues associated with this project and made a conscious decision to put qualifications over with a higher score than price. And that changes from project to project based on our criteria and what we're trying to achieve on each individual project. We do that through our purchasing department, and the generation of those contract documents come through our purchasing department, which allows us to make sure we're still following all state laws and criteria as we issue those.
Councilmember Stanley?
I do have a few questions. I didn't want to jump in front of Frida.
No.
Okay. So I'd like to discuss, because it was brought up in the way that this project was bid twice. So did the budget change, and if the increase in the budget, where did that come from? Why did we have the additional money?
Great. That's absolutely correct. I meant to say that Mr. Fuller gave a good synopsis, an accurate synopsis of the process. Yes, the project was originally bid out, and every bid that we received was greater than the engineer's estimate for the project. And so the utilities department, our engineering's client at that basically made a decision, hey, I've got to reorganize, I've got to retool. So the evaluation process was stopped at that level. We did not do a full evaluation of the bidder's qualifications or any other criteria. We basically said, hey, this is over budget. We stopped the process. And so then effectively that department goes back and looks at this project, looks at their other priorities, things that they have on their current capital list, things that they have in their E&I opportunities or whatever funding mechanisms they may have at their disposal, and they basically prioritize what happens, what gets cut, or what moves to bumps back a year, whatever those decisions are. That's where that money per se is generated from the existing budget and or budget that's currently in place.
So did the scope of work change in the let's call it bid A versus bid B? So when bid B was put back out, scope of work was greater, thus a greater budget that we increased up to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell me what the budget amount is? I'm curious if the other one from Amarillo Utilities is in budget or still over.
No, I don't have the engineer estimate listed down there. I'm sorry, I should have that on there. But we had, I believe we had 4 of the 5 new submissions. There were 5 contractors who bid on the secondary project, and I believe 4 of the 5 were inside our budget.
Okay, so let's assume that it's in budget for the award that you're recommending for now, right?
Sure, it is.
We still have a $656,000 potential savings. My question is this seems very subjective in the way of bidder qualifications, and it only seems that way because I don't know enough. So can you tell me what those specific bidder quals are and maybe how they're rated?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So bidder qualifications for this particular project was 55% of the total evaluated score. When evaluating a bidder's qualification, the city uses the bidder's statement of qualifications and any past experience with the bidder. So the bidder is asked to provide information as well as and highlight information that they would like to submit and for the committee to consider, as well as those committee members are asked to and allowed to use their personal experience with that contractor. The bidder statement of qualification is a minimum, and you may provide additional pertinent information relevant to the project for which you are submitting this proposal. Evaluation of the bidder's qualifications shall be based on the following. A, the reputation of the bidder and the bidder's goods and services. A1, that is the character, integrity, reputation, judgment, experience, and efficiency of the bidder for 10 points.
Okay.
Item B, the quality of the bidder's goods and services, the quality of performance of previous contracts or services, 10 points.
Good.
The bidder's past relationship with the municipality, 10 points. Any relevant criteria specifically listed in the request for bids or proposal, and that's item D. D1, the ability, capacity, skill, and financial resources to perform the work or provide the services required, 10 points. The ability of the bidder to perform the work or provide the services promptly or within the time specified without delay or interference, 10 points. The experience and qualifications of key project personnel, 5 points.
Okay.
And those are all the selection criteria for qualifications.
That's great. That gets to where it's not quite so subjective. So as a fellow contractor, there's really only one way to do this, and I believe that, Mr. Fuller will understand my directness. But much as you asked me, how I run my business, I'm going to ask the question, are you in good standing with the city? Does Fuller & Sons have a good standing with the city? Is there any reason that I shouldn't continue to approach this conversation thinking that they would have higher marks on these? They would have higher marks?
So Elliott Fuller & Sons is not on on the city's debarred bidders list. They are eligible to bid, and we encourage them to bid when asked.
Okay.
Is there anybody on the debarred list?
There are contractors on
I don't
the
need to know
debarred
who.
list, but
Okay.
There's 5.
And I don't mean this in the wrong way. I simply mean it in a factual way of determining, like reputation, quality, the schedule on this one. If there's not a time frame, then we may not necessarily have a promptness other than just need.
yeah, that's a great point, and I did not mention that, and Jonas, Mr. Fuller did. Time was a selection criteria in the first bid. There was an actual number evaluation based on the time bid. The second time we turned that project out, what we elected to do was to just put a hard and fast deadline. Basically, it was bid with 180 days, and so that removed. It removed a positive and it removed a negative from the timing standpoint, and said the project must be completed in this time period. the consideration for that was the erratic scale with which from the original bids that were submitted. That was part of our consideration for timing. And so what we did is we just we kind of took that out of the equation and put a deadline.
Let me go back a half step. I know we're doing best value bidding. And so are there other processes that we utilize, or do we do best value bidding on all items right now? Is that even a good question, or is it too broad?
CP&D Engineering is currently bidding all capital projects that come through our purview through the best value process. There are other processes for the city as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends.
We have low bid or meeting specs, which is what we did for years, in the best value. We have RFPs, which you've seen.
Okay.
That Jerry uses some, and we use in other places. The RFQs for qualifications. Then we have one that we've only used one time. It's called a two-step bid process. The only time I can remember using this was at the Osage plant. It's a very technical process, or we use it when we have a very technical process. We ask the bidders to submit the qualifications in one envelope and the price in a second envelope. And at bid opening, we would open all of the envelopes for the qualifications. They would be evaluated and ranked according to qualifications. Those that meet the qualifications to do the job, we would then open theirs and their only pricing, and then rank them and award as such.
Okay.
So those are pretty much our
So
options.
essentially, you qualify, and then once you're qualified, you're in the pool, and then it's awarded low bid.
In that case, yes, sir.
Okay. This particular process, just to clarify, point systems, and so qualifying, your bidder qualifications outranks everything else. I'm looking at Fuller & Sons ranks a 5 out of 5 on safety. And then Fuller & Sons ranks a 40 out of 40 on bid price. So they were the low bidder and the safest ranking, but they're the lowest qualifying. So let me stop there in the way of, like, I feel like the only thing that I would really benefit in a conversation with council on is in future, like, is this the best way to move forward as a city in awarding projects? And I'm not asking an opinion. I'm maybe for a discussion item later, is this just the first time that we may run into this type of an issue, and we should look at other types of bids, much more like you qualify first and then low bidders awarded in that particular style? Mayor, can I ask, would that be appropriate for us to schedule a time to have a discussion about something?
Mr. City Manager, could we set up a time to discuss that with Council Member Stanley? I know that this is an issue that has been addressed in previous years, that we were on the council and we were the council that decided the best value bidding process was something that should be considered, especially on these engineering and public works projects. So. But we haven't had that conversation since you've been on council, so let's work on getting that set up and make sure that you're comfortable and have your questions answered.
Sure.
What we do is just do a real super deep dive on how are we right here with regard to best value bidding on this type of project. We can go over the history and answer any questions you've got, and then we'll go from there. Does it need to come back to council for discussion, or however council wants to direct me to go, we'll go.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. That is what I'm asking for, and then through that conversation, be able to either get on board or look at what other possible scenarios could be better for different types of projects. And then in this particular case, definitely not trying to step on anybody's toes, but being very direct in really kind of want to isolate what the problem is here, not necessarily in the way that it can be left subjective. And I know that being on their side of the fence, it's nice when it's factual and it's not subjective, and it's kind of hard to walk away from sometimes. So I do really appreciate you coming in and asking me and being direct with me and giving me an opportunity to ask some questions. We'll do our best moving forward.
Thank you for your question. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Any other questions about this item?
Okay, yes. So I have a background in working with service contracts as well. And so I know that price is definitely important, especially when you're trying to work within a budget. But at the same time, in dealing with service contracts, I'm always looking at the criteria and the qualifications first, because any vendor out there can low bid a project just to get his or her foot in the door. And I'm not saying that in relationship to Mr. Fuller. I'm just saying that in my experience in having to negotiate contracts over the years. And so quality is always, something that I'm looking for in any vendor that I'm doing with. So I want you to come with your best bid, the criteria that you have, your company's in good standing, and then I want to look at the opposite, right? Because we all have complaints, and so, are there, like, what's the percentage of liquidated damages? Because every contractor is going to have that. I mean, I haven't seen a contractor that's perfect, and if you do have one, let me know, because I'd like to review what they're doing. And maybe we can share that as best practices. But the citizens that live in this neighborhood have been dealing with this issue for years. So how long has this project been on the table?
Sure. So the original project was bid out in 2014. We have an acceptance date of sometime in 2016. And then almost immediately we saw the trench compaction issues. We entered into some legal proceedings with that contractor, which is not one of the bidders on our current list. And there were some negotiations. We did ground penetrating radar activities in this area and isolated certain areas for additional work. But ultimately, those negotiated issues and as a tactic was ultimately unsuccessful, and the project began to fail even further over a matter of years. And so there has been a failure on this project since 2016, depending on what area, and then our crew is trying to keep up with its repair. And so a long time. The neighborhood has been impacted.
Because I've received several phone calls from many, many citizens in that particular area. Then how many miles of street repair are we talking about?
Floyd might have to help me with that contract again. I apologize. I don't know the total length of the job. The depiction in our 200, that is 2,300 feet from I-40 south, just a little less than a half mile, and an additional station 185, an additional 160 feet north of I-40 from, say, 13th to nearly 300 feet, I guess. So that would be just a little less than 3/4 of a mile is what we're actually repairing. Apologize for not having those numbers right at my hand.
All right. Thank you. That's all that I have.
And by the way, that budget, when I did walk over to Floyd and look at that contract, our budget estimate was $3 million, and so we are recommending a project of acceptance inside the current budget identified by the department.
Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate that. At this time, do we have a motion with regard to item 2Q, Council?
Yes, Mayor, if you'll give me just a moment. Let me flip back over here. Okay. Mayor, I move to approve the award of the water transfer line trench repair southeast 13th Avenue in Bolton to southeast 27th and Bolton Street to Amarillo Utility Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $2,575,395.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Council Member Smith. Any further discussion or questions about that motion, Council? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes with a 5-0 vote. Moving on to item 3B is a public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 7990. Mr. City Manager?
All right, Mayor, we've got Brady Kendrick here to present the item. This is a rezoning. Brady, take it away. And he's also got the next item as well, Mayor.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is an ordinance that proposes to vacate a portion of an alley located adjacent to lots 4 through 6 and a portion of lot 3, block 16, Morningside subdivision in section 156, block 2, A.B.M. survey, Potter County, Texas. And the vicinity is Amarillo Boulevard and Muir Street, and the applicant is Andrew Mitchell for Jamal Enterprises, LP. This is a situation where the applicant is requesting abandonment of this alley segment in order to create a unified development site between 2 tracts of land that they own in order to construct a new car wash. Within the current alley, there is a city water and sewer main along with franchise utility company equipment, and considering that the applicant is going to retain a public utility easement over that area to be vacated. Trash service also in this area will not be impacted, as this is a T-shaped alley, if you will, and the western segment of that alley will remain open, so this will not result in a situation where there is a dead-end alley. Regarding fair market value payment, that is not required in this instance since they are retaining an area of equal or greater value with that public utility easement. We did send notices out to everyone within 200 feet regarding this request. One phone call was received that did not express opposition. It was just a general inquiry. Considering the just mentioned, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this request with a unanimous vote.
Any questions for Brady? Thank you, Brady. At this time, we'll open a public hearing on item 3B, ordinance number 7990. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak for, on, or against this item? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 7990, vacating a 2,492 square foot portion of a public right-of-way alley located adjacent to lots 4 through 6 and a portion of lot 3, block 16, Morningside subdivision, in addition to the city of Amarillo in section 156, block 2, A.B.M. survey, Potter County, Texas, in the vicinity of Amarillo Boulevard and Muir Street.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Dr. Sauer to approve ordinance 7990. Any further questions on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote. Item 3C, Brady?
Item 3C is to consider an ordinance rezoning lot 26J, block 25, Coulter Acres, unit number 8. The remaining portions of lots 26 and 27, block 2, Coulter Acres, unit number 1. A portion of lot 27C and all of 27D, block 2, Coulter Acres, unit number 5. All in section 38, block 9, DSNF survey, Randall County, Texas, to change from residential district 1 to office district 2. The vicinity is Southwest 77th Avenue and Coulter Street, and the applicants are Greg Farber on behalf of the Reserve Offices, LLC, Hayes Holdings and Investments Group, LLC, and Redeemer Presbyterian Church. Adjacent zoning consists of agricultural district and residential district to the north, agricultural district to the south, general retail to the east, and is adjacent to the current city limits to the west. Adjacent land uses consist of single-family detached homes and vacant land to the north, vacant land to the south, a private children's academy and vacant land to the east, and a manufactured home park to the west. The applicant is requesting this proposed change in zoning to develop the land with office-related land uses. The land proposed to be rezoned is situated in a unique area of Amarillo. Its uniqueness is based on the fact that the west half is bordered by the ETJ. Land adjacent to the east half is inside the city limits and is adjacent to a major section line arterial. As such, development and zoning patterns in the area are not typical, whereas within the ETJ, a mix of residential and commercial land uses are found. Land along the west side of Coulter Street inside the city limits is primarily estate residential, and land along the east side is retail in nature. The Planning and Zoning Commission is of the opinion that many possible development and zoning patterns are possible for land along the west side of Coulter Street, yet a majority of the land along the west side is being residential in nature. Consideration of existing residences should be taken into account. Given its unique location, And with office zoning now being requested rather than retail as inquired about in the past, the Planning and Zoning Commission does believe that the land uses allowed in office zoning are compatible with the existing residences and that an opportunity for appropriate infill of long undeveloped land is present. Notices were sent to property owners within 200 feet as required by state law. As of this writing, 2 phone calls have been received, one in opposition to the request and the other being an inquiry. The primary concern expressed by the person expressing opposition was potential impacts to property values. Considering all they just mentioned, although office zoning does not comply with the recommended development type and is state residential, the Planning and Zoning Commission believes that minimal negative impacts would result and that office zoning rather than general retail zoning immediately adjacent to residential land uses could be a more developable, desirable zoning pattern. Therefore, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval as presented.
Council, questions for Brady? What was the vote at P&Z?
It was unanimous, 6-0.
Great. Thank you, Brady. At this time, we'll open a public hearing on item 3C, ordinance number 7991. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak for, on, or against item 3C? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 7991, which is rezoning. Rezoning lot 26J, block 25, Coulter Acres, unit number 8, the remaining portions of lots 26 and 27, block 2, Coulter Acres, unit number 1, a portion of lot 27C and all of 27D, block 2, Coulter Acres, unit number 5, all in section 38, block 9, BS&F survey, Randall County, Texas, plus 1/2 of all bounding streets, alleys, and public ways to change from residential district 1, which is R1, to office district 2, O2, in the vicinity of Southwest 77th Avenue and Coulter Street.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Sauer, to approve ordinance number 7991. Any discussion or questions about the motion, Council?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
This is one of those that, how does this work when half the land is in the city and half of it's out of the city?
So the entirety of this tract is actually all within the city.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, the church on the west side of the property, I forget how many years ago that was, it actually requested annexation, so that's why we have this little...
Okay. It just looked like it was half annexed and half not.
It's a little unusual looking for sure. It's just because we kind of jutted out the city limits at a point to get that church in the city limits back a number of years ago.
Okay. My bad. Sorry.
It's a good question. Thank you, Eddie. Anybody else? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That item passes with a 5-0 vote. Item 3C. Nope,
3D.
Thank you. I can't
Yes,
get
ma'am.
my mouth to actually connect. Is consideration of ordinance number 7992. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, thank you. This is a request from West Texas Gas Utility for franchise rights to be able to use public right-of-way to provide gas services. My understanding is that we have either annexed to or adjacent to or nearby wherever they currently provide service out in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. I've looked at my history of cities that I've worked at. I've never worked at a city that used them, but I've never heard anything bad about them. We have, I understand, of course, I'm going to hand it to Brian McWilliams, City Attorney, to address the situation. We also have Cody Cowling to answer any questions council has. Not calling you up right now. I just didn't
Welcome, Cody.
know where you were. Brian, do you have anything to add to that, or Brian and I can answer any questions you got, or we can pull up Cody?
Sure. Just as a reminder, every once in a while we'll have a franchise come to us. There's a specific provision in the charter that talks about franchises in public right-of-ways. The use of public right-of-ways are infrastructure for utilities. West Texas Gas LLC has come to us with the franchise, requesting a franchise. So what you have here is before you a first reading of that franchise agreement. Now, per our charter, there is a 3-week consecutive publication period that the utility pays for in a regional newspaper. And then there's a 30-day waiting period after that to allow for someone to come forward with a protest and or comment or whatever before council takes the matter up again. So if the council acts today, then what will happen is the utility or West Texas Gas Utility will publish. You'll have a 30-day waiting period, and then you'll see it probably late August, early September, something like that again. In the meantime, if there's comments or concerns, then we can certainly take them up at that time as well. So that kind of gives you an idea of the way it works in the city of Amarillo. And we do have representatives from West Texas. I'll turn it over to them. They can explain any operational aspects to you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Mayor Nelson, City Council members, City Manager Miller, thank you for your consideration in this ordinance request that we have before you. As mentioned, Mr. Cody Cowling, he's our North Region Area Marketing Manager. He's here as well today representing our company. My name is J.J. King. I'm out of our corporate office in Midland, Texas, and we have just a little history about our company, not only statewide but also in this area. We have been in the Amarillo area since the early 1980s. We are a regulated utility in the state of Texas since 1976, serving approximately about 30,000 customers both in the state of Texas as well as the panhandle of Oklahoma and southwest Kansas. So that gives you a little bit of history of who we are. We have 36 incorporated cities that we're the LDC or that we proudly serve in the state of Texas. We have 7 more in the state of Oklahoma that we serve, primarily in the panhandle and western part of Oklahoma. And the bigger areas that we serve, you might want to know some of the bigger areas that we serve, the more larger service areas. We serve areas in San Antonio, larger areas in San Antonio, south part of Austin, along 130 there down to north of the New Braunfels area. We're serving those areas. We serve areas in Lubbock, Texas. And then for this particular area, back in the early to mid-'80s, we started growing in south part of Amarillo. From basically, let's just call it Soncy Road down to Canyon. And since that time, we've grown, and that's why we're here today, is our growth and your growth have butted us up against the incorporated city limits of Amarillo and where our service lines meet. And over that period of time, we've grown. You've grown. It's a great thing. And we've had several developers, residential developers, commercial developers reach out to us asking if we could serve customers inside the incorporated city limits of Amarillo. And again, our systems are butting up against the incorporated areas here in the city. Just to give you an idea of where that's at, it's primarily on the south side of Amarillo, southeast, south, southwest, west sides of your incorporated areas. We have like I mentioned a while ago, we've had a local and regional office here in Amarillo since the early 1980s. We have a regional office here now. It's right off of 2219, and we employ approximately 25 people there at that regional office here in Amarillo. So we've been here for quite a while. One of our big areas of service, as well as the local distribution system we serve, is the agricultural community north of Amarillo. We serve a large agricultural community when it comes to irrigation, cotton gins, feedlots, all sorts of agricultural business north of Amarillo that requires us to have a large presence in the Texas Panhandle. So with that being said, I'll certainly answer any questions you have of our company, ideas that we have, concerns you may have. We're excited to continue to grow. As I mentioned, we're growing because you're growing, and hopefully we can get this ordinance passed so that we can start doing some business inside the city limits.
Thank you, J.J. Questions, Council?
Yeah, so it sounds like that you all are considering expanding or coming into Amarillo?
That is correct.
That is correct.
We've had
Okay.
several developers, residential developers, as well as commercial developers reach out to us that we have done business with in the past and that we are currently talking to do business with, not only in this area but in other areas, part of the state that's coming to Amarillo to do business. And again, in order for us to be able to legally do business inside the city limits of the city of Amarillo, we need this franchise to do that.
So, Mayor, I'm not sure if this is a question for our city attorney or not, but I'm trying to look down the road and think about some of the concerns that I could potentially see. So that would mean that we would have two gas utilities here in Amarillo, which we would have Atmos Energy, and then we would have West Texas Gas. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So how does I'm not quite understanding how that works. So now we have people like our citizens would have a choice to either go with West Texas Gas or Atmos Energy, or how does that work?
They wouldn't have a choice. Unless they wouldn't have a choice. It would be unrealistic and not feasible for either company, any company, to install infrastructure where another company already has infrastructure and all the customers.
Okay.
It's not like cable?
Yeah, it's not like cable or cell service or any other utility where you got franchises paying.
Right. That's why I'm asking, because I want to have a better understanding, because I'm sure there's some citizens, watching us that, may have the same
Depending
questions
on who,
too.
so he mentioned developers. If a developer annexed or requested an area be annexed, and they wanted to make a deal with that developer to be the gas provider inside that area, they would be the gas provider inside that area. That's who the resident would. That's who their gas provider would be. I was going to say that's who their choice would be, but that's who their gas provider would be. Just like right now, if you move into a house right now and you have gas at your house, your choice is Atmos.
Right.
I've never had multiple gas companies inside a city. I know a lot of cities do because of the way they grow. I'm not saying one way is better than another. I'm just saying you only have one choice with gas. Theoretically, it's possible to have more than one, but nobody's going to make that investment.
And as Mr. Miller's saying, he's exactly right. I would classify it as areas of new development. Those are the areas that we would be looking to get into, provided that the developer or the builder want to utilize our services in those areas. We absolutely cannot, go dig up streets and alleys in the middle of town and compete with the LDC provider here right now to do those things. So, as Mr. Miller said, exactly right. In areas of new development, primarily, like I said, where our systems are in place right now, on the south side, southeast, southwest, west side of the city of Amarillo. We've been recently asked about the north side as well. So just areas of new development, exactly.
Good question.
Okay. Yeah, I was concerned because I didn't know exactly, how that works, what it's going to look going down the road. So.
And to give you some references, we compete with Texas Gas Service in the Austin area, same situation. With Atmos in Lubbock, same situation. With CenterPoint and CPS and Centrix and several other companies in San Antonio. So there's other areas we do the exact same thing.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Do we have a motion?
Yes. Okay. I move to adopt ordinance number 7992, West Texas Gas Franchise. Let's see. Hold on just a moment. Granting to West Texas Gas Utility, LLC, a Texas limited liability company with its principal office in the city of Midland County, Texas, the franchise and rights to conduct in Amarillo the business of acquiring, maintaining, constructing, laying, repairing, removing, replacing, installing, operating, and disposing of a gas system for the sale, transportation, and distribution of natural gas within the municipal boundaries of the city and to the residents and businesses located therein for light, heat, power, and any other purposes, and the right to use the present and future streets, roads, highways, alleys, public ways, and real property in such city and owned or controlled by such city for such purposes, prescribing the terms and conditions to which such franchise and rights are subject, and prescribing the terms of such franchise and rights.
Second.
I think you drew the long straw on that one. She drew the short straw. It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Smith to approve item 3D ordinance number 7992. Any further questions or discussion, council?
Is there any downside to this?
What was your question?
Brian, is there any downside to this?
I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, I can see downside to not doing it with regard to growth and development of the city.
I think it depends on who you talk to. Utility providers will make a very compelling case that, and I'm not disagreeing with it, that when you have one provider to work with, you have a much better ability to control quality of services or challenges in the right-of-way. I'm not saying that's correct or incorrect. There might be other arguments that would lend to that, but I'm not saying that's a reason not to do it. And I don't want anything to be construed as not having a good partnership with our existing gas company.
So does Atmos Energy have any concerns? That would be my question.
Not being an applicant, I don't know if it would be.
Here's what I would say. What I guess and this is not going to be the right term, but maybe the contemplation that you want to do, the hesitancy, maybe that's a good word for this, is completely founded. And that is why our process is set up to allow for those kinds of concerns to come to City Council and then to be discussed again at some point as to what those concerns might be. I think we've heard, there's competition and those kinds of things, and that you may have different infrastructure within the bounds of one city. All of those things, there could be pros and cons to those things. But I think that you'll have the time to look through that and analyze that before you finalize this franchise agreement.
Okay.
So
we're going to have a second reading of it.
There is no doubt of it. That's exactly why you have a waiting period and you have a publication period, so that not just the people in this room, but the people that aren't in this room have an opportunity to weigh in on this matter and to bring this to council so that council can adequately weigh those concerns.
Okay.
So your concerns are very valid.
Okay.
So would this be something that we would probably not see? The usual is we pass this, and unless it doesn't pass with a unanimous vote, it automatically goes on consent. So would this be something that maybe we just go ahead and pull off a consent so we can maybe have a final discussion? I'm just.
Would you like to do that?
I think I would like
Yeah,
to do
let's
that
do
just
that.
because I would like.
And I would like a little
I'd
bit
like
more
some
information.
understanding
Yeah, a
is
little bit
really
more
what I'm looking
information is what I'm looking for too.
Because
Okay.
this is kind of a first.
Yeah.
Okay. Any problem with that, Mr. City Manager?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Great.
What about
Cole? Brian, any problem with that?
None at all.
Okay, I was really looking at Councilmember Smith and
Okay,
Councilmember
sorry. Here we are, sitting in a line.
Stanley, so I was wondering what their thoughts were.
So
In agreement with that? I mean, I think I got a couple of head
I think
nods.
discussion's always good. My major question would be an overlap. So areas of town that kind of have an overlap because of growth and how growth can kind of do certain things. So that would be my main concern, is just making sure we have distinct boundaries and protocols for those easements. And I think we could get to that pretty well through staff and how you guys execute this easement, or execute the agreement, I guess.
For the city, our primary concerns are going to be responsiveness to permits and permitting requirements and coordination of right-of-way activities, safety of infrastructure and system. All of our companies are familiar with those things, I think, and know how to handle them. Like I said, that's going to be our primary concern from an operational standpoint. I may have missed something, Kyle. If I did, please. Or I'm referencing a person who's already left the room, so I'm sorry about that. Floyd.
Okay, with that, all of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes with a 5-0 vote. Item 3E is consideration of resolution number 0628221. Mr. City Manager?
All right, we've got Brady Kendrick to bring this item to us. This is a just one of the steps as any developer asks for annexation of property. Brady?
Sure. Yeah, so this is a resolution that will consider allowing the city manager to formalize the agreed service plan associated with this property owner initiated annexation request, and also set the date, time, and place for the one required public hearing we are required to have per state law. Additionally, there will be a second reading as well per our city charter. We are proposing the public hearing to be set for July 12th during city council for this consideration of this annexation. This annexation is 244.97 acres west of 34th and Sonsi, and is proposed to be developed with a residential subdivision composed of 569 homes that will feature a variety of residential products, along with non-residential products around the periphery of this subdivision. State law does require that the city and property owners agree to a service plan prior to it being considered. And this document would only come into effect and is binding if the annexation is approved by City Council and upon the annexation ordinance's second reading. And this agreement was agreed to and signed by the developer on June 24th. Considering the just mentioned, staff does recommend that the date, time, and place for the public hearing be set for July 12th, 2022 at 1 p.m. in the City Council chambers, and that the city manager be authorized to execute the agreed service plan.
Any questions for Brady, council? Thank you, Brady. Do we have a motion with regard to item 3E?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 06-28-22-1, setting a time, date, place for a public hearing to consider the proposed annexation of certain property by the City of Amarillo, Texas, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement service plan in the vicinity of Sonsi Road and Southwest 34th Avenue. The date, time, and place for a public hearing is set as July 12th, 2022 at 1 p.m. in the council chambers located on the third floor of City Hall, 601 South Buchanan Street, Amarillo, Texas.
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Powell and seconded by Councilmember Sauer to approve resolution number 06-28-221. Any further questions or discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote. The last thing on our agenda is an executive session item. So, Mr. City Attorney, would you read our dismissal language, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, closed session of the Amarillo City Council was announced on June 28, 2022, 4:22 p.m. under the following authority: Section 551.072, discuss a purchase, exchange, lease, sale, or value of real property. Public discussion of such would not be in the best interest of the city's bargaining position. Thank you.
With that, we are adjourned to executive session. And council, I would ask that maybe we just go ahead and step on in there. I don't think this item will take very long.